There comes a point when smiling all the time starts to feel heavy. When saying yes feels like a quiet wound. When being easy to love begins to feel like slowly losing yourself. And maybe this is where you are right now. On the outside, calm, polite, helpful, good. But inside, something is tired. Something is done. Because deep inside, a voice has been whispering for a long time, "This is not me anymore." Listen closely. This is not about becoming rude. This is not about becoming cold. 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 This is about becoming real. It is about dropping the version of you that survives by pleasing everyone and returning to the woman who does not need to shrink to belong. If you have ever stayed quiet just to keep the peace, if you have ever said yes while your whole body wanted to say no, if you have ever made yourself smaller so other people could stay comfortable, then stay with me. This message is for you, because what comes next might hit deeper than you expect. And by the end of this, something in you may never want to go back. Not to the mask, not to the performance, not to the old role. You are not here to be endlessly pleasant. You are not here to carry everyone and disappear in the process. You are here to be whole, to be honest, to be rooted, to live without asking for permission. And today, that begins. Most women were not taught to betray themselves in loud ways. It happened quietly, through praise, through approval, through small moments when being sweet got rewarded and being direct got punished. You learned early that being agreeable made life easier, so you adjusted. You smiled when you felt hurt. You stayed soft when you needed space. You went along with things that did not feel right because you did not want to seem difficult. And little by little, what looked like kindness on the outside became self-abandonment on the inside. That is the hidden cost. It does not always show on your face right away. Sometimes it looks like being reliable, being mature, being the one everyone can count on. But beneath that image, there is tension, resentment, quiet anger, a tired heart. Because every time you ignore your own truth to protect someone else's comfort, you send yourself a message. Their needs matter more. Their mood matters more. Their approval matters more. And if you repeat that long enough, you start forgetting that you matter too. This part is important. Kindness without boundaries is not pure kindness. It becomes sacrifice. It becomes fear wearing a beautiful face. You give, not because it feels right, but because you are scared of what people will think if you stop. And that is not peace. That is pressure. That is performance. And the longer you live that way, the more disconnected you become from your own center. You may think always saying yes makes you loving, but often it only makes you available, convenient, easy to reach, easy to use. People stop seeing your effort as a gift and start treating it like a normal part of who you are. They expect your time, they assume your energy, they rely on your silence. And slowly, burnout is born, not just body tired, soul tired. The kind of tired sleep does not fix, because this is not only about doing too much, it is about denying too much, denying your limits, denying your feelings, denying the truth that rises in your chest when something feels off, and when your life keeps moving against your own inner signal, something breaks. You can feel it, a strange emptiness, a quiet numbness, a sadness you cannot fully explain. That is what happens when you are always there for everyone else and nowhere for yourself. So hear this clearly. The strongest kind of kindness includes you. It respects your peace. It protects your time. It does not ask you to disappear so others can feel comfortable. Real kindness can say, I care, but not at this cost. Real kindness can step back. Real kindness can be quiet. Real kindness can walk away. Do not confuse softness with surrender. Do not confuse giving with losing yourself. You were not made to be drained in the name of being good. You were made to give from fullness, not from fear. And if that truth feels uncomfortable, good. That means you are starting to wake up. Many women carry a deep fear around one tiny word. No. It looks small, but for someone trained to please, it can feel dangerous. It can feel like conflict, like rejection, like a sudden risk of losing love. So instead of saying no, you delay. You explain too much. You apologize for your limits. You bend your whole life around someone else's expectations, because disappointing them feels worse than betraying yourself. But listen, saying no is not an attack. It is direction. It is self-respect spoken out loud. It is a boundary with a heartbeat. It is you standing beside your own needs instead of leaving them behind again. And no, this does not make you selfish. It makes you clear. It makes you honest. It means you finally trust your own inner signal enough to follow it. That matters, because every strong life is built on alignment, not endless availability. The woman who cannot say no becomes ruled by other people's urgency. Their pressure becomes her plan. Their needs become her schedule. Their emotions become her responsibility. And that is not living, that is reacting, that is surviving in a shape that keeps everyone happy except you. So start here. No to what drains you. No to what confuses your spirit. No to what asks you to smile while your body feels tight and your heart feels tired. You do not need a long speech. You do not need perfect timing. Sometimes a calm no is more powerful than 100 polished explanations. Sit with that. A calm no can save years of silent resentment. Discipline is not just about waking up early or staying committed to goals. Real discipline is remembering who you are when it would be easier to forget. It is staying true to your values when comfort invites you to abandon them. It is holding your line when guilt starts knocking. And this is where the old nice girl pattern falls apart, because that pattern is built on being liked, not being rooted. It says, keep everyone happy and you will be safe. Stay agreeable and you will be accepted. Stay easy and no one will leave. But what kind of life is built on that promise? A life where your voice gets softer and softer until even you cannot hear it. A life where your choices are shaped by fear of disapproval instead of truth. A life that looks calm from far away but feels heavy up close. This is why saying no is an act of discipline. Because sometimes your heart knows what is right long before your mouth is brave enough to say it. And in that gap you either betray yourself again or you rise. You choose the harder honesty. You choose the clean boundary. You choose the momentary discomfort that protects your long-term peace. This is not rebellion. This is self-leadership. And yes, some people may not like it. Some may call you distant, difficult, changed. Let them. People often complain when they can no longer benefit from the version of you that had no boundaries. Their discomfort is not always a sign you are wrong. Sometimes it is proof that your truth is finally visible. There is another trap that keeps many women stuck, and it is less obvious than people-pleasing. It is the hunger for validation, the need to hear, you did the right thing, you handled that well, you are good, you are enough. And for a while that approval can feel warm, safe, like a little hit of relief. But if your sense of worth depends on being confirmed by others, then your peace is never really yours. It belongs to their reactions. Their praise lifts you. Their silence shakes you. Their approval becomes the weather inside your mind. That is a fragile way to live, because people are inconsistent. Their opinions change. Their moods shift. Their expectations often have nothing to do with your truth. Yet when you build your identity on external praise, you begin to perform instead of live. You start editing your words, softening your opinions, dressing your truth in a way that will be easier for others to accept. You scan rooms for approval, you check faces, you replay conversations, you wonder, did they like me? Was I too much? Did I upset them? Should I have said it differently? This is exhausting and it keeps you far from yourself. Validation asks, will they accept me? Alignment asks, is this honest for me? One is borrowed, the other is rooted. One leaves you empty again after the moment passes. The other stays with you when no one claps. That is the shift. Stop asking if they approve. Start asking if it is true. That one change can rebuild your entire life from the inside out. What happens when validation does not come? That is when the deeper wound reveals itself. The praise is missing. The message gets ignored. The effort goes unseen. No one notices how much you gave. No one says thank you in the way you hoped. And suddenly your mood drops. Your energy changes. Your confidence weakens. Why? Because when your value lives in other people's hands, every silence feels personal. Every lack of response feels like rejection. This is why chasing approval is such a painful game. Even when you win, you still lose. Because the reward fades fast, you feel good for a moment, then the emptiness returns and you go out searching again. More effort, more proving, more shaping yourself into something easy to applaud. But true stability is born in a different place. It comes from being able to sit with yourself in a quiet room and know, I did not abandon my truth. I did not twist myself for acceptance. I did not trade integrity for applause. That kind of peace is deep. It does not depend on likes, compliments, or anyone else's comfort. And once you taste that kind of peace, the old chase starts to feel cheap. This may be the sentence you need today. You do not need to be constantly affirmed to be deeply right. Let that land. You do not need to be constantly affirmed to be deeply right. The woman who knows who she is does not become arrogant. She becomes steady, calm, harder to manipulate, harder to guilt, harder to control. Not because she stops caring, but because she stops outsourcing her worth. Many people confuse peace with silence. They think avoiding conflict means maintaining harmony. But silence is not always peace. Sometimes it is fear. Sometimes it is a cage decorated to look like maturity. When you keep swallowing your feelings to avoid tension, you are not protecting the relationship. You are starving it of truth. You let small hurts pile up. You let disrespect repeat itself. You let confusion grow because saying something feels too risky. And over time, what could have been a simple, honest conversation turns into distance, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. This is how avoidance quietly ruins inner peace. You smile while your chest feels tight. You say it is fine while your heart says it is not. You become skilled at keeping things smooth on the surface while something in you starts breaking underneath. That is not strength. That is suppression. And suppression always collects interest. It will show up later as stress, burnout, sudden tears, sharp reactions, or a deep feeling that you are not being seen. Conflict, when handled with honesty and presence, is not destruction. It is information. It reveals what matters. It shows where limits have been crossed. It tests whether a connection can hold truth or only comfort. And that matters. Because a relationship that depends on your silence is not a safe relationship. It is only a convenient one. Real closeness can survive honest words. Real connection can handle a boundary. Real love does not require you to erase your own feelings just to keep the room calm. If peace costs you your voice, it is not peace. It is quiet suffering. You can disagree with grace. You can speak clearly without becoming cruel. You can express anger without turning it into violence. You can set limits without building a wall around your heart. These are not impossible skills. They simply require presence. Presence with your body, presence with your emotions, presence with the truth rising in you before you rush to cover it up. Because the goal is not to win every argument. The goal is to stop leaving yourself every time discomfort enters the room. The old pattern says, keep things smooth no matter what. The stronger pattern says, be honest and stay grounded. That changes everything. When you begin speaking up, some people will resist. They may call you dramatic, cold, sensitive, selfish, too much. But do not panic. Often that reaction is not about your tone. It is about the fact that the old dynamic no longer works for them. Your truth interrupts a pattern they benefited from. That interruption may feel messy, but it is not wrong. It is realignment. It is life moving back into honesty. So speak, not to dominate, not to punish, not to prove you are right. Speak to clarify. Speak to honor your inner world. Speak because your feelings are not mistakes. Speak because your silence has already cost enough. And if your honesty creates discomfort, let it. Discomfort is not always a sign of damage. Sometimes it is the first sign of growth. Sometimes it is the moment a false peace begins to collapse, so something more solid can finally be built. Stay with that. False peace must collapse before real peace can stand. People pleasing often gets mistaken for love, but many times it is fear in soft clothing. The fear of being rejected, the fear of being left, the fear of being misunderstood. So you adjust. You monitor the room. You become whatever version of yourself will cause the least friction. You laugh when you want to pause. You agree when you want to question. You offer more than you have because you hope it will secure connection. But this is the slow erasure of self. It does not happen in one dramatic moment. It happens in repeated small betrayals. You ignore your needs. You override your instincts. You make room for everyone else until there is almost no room left for you. And one day you wake up tired in a way you cannot explain. Not just busy, empty, not just stressed, disconnected. You look in the mirror and feel like you are meeting a stranger. Why? Because shape-shifting for too long makes you forget your original form. Your own voice gets buried under everyone else's expectations. Your own desires begin to feel inconvenient. Your own truth starts sounding unfamiliar. That is the price. And no, people do not deeply respect the woman who never says no. They may enjoy her help. They may praise her kindness. They may love her usefulness. But respect grows when a person has edges, when they know what they stand for, when their yes means yes and their no means no. Presence is stronger than pleasing. Presence says, I am here, fully, honestly, without performing for approval. That is powerful. That is memorable. That is the energy that changes a room without raising its voice. There is a deep difference between kindness and compliance. Kindness comes from strength. Compliance comes from fear. Kindness can care and still hold a boundary. Compliance gives in to avoid tension. Kindness is warm but clear. Compliance is soft but shaky. And if you confuse the two, you will keep calling self-betrayal love. You will keep calling silence maturity. You will keep calling overgiving a virtue even while it empties you out. But the truth is simple. You are not here to be easy to consume. You are not a product designed for universal approval. You are a whole human being with feelings, limits, standards, values, and a voice that was never meant to stay hidden. Your value is not measured by how much of yourself you can hand away without complaint. Your value is in how deeply you stay rooted while caring for others, in how honestly you speak, in how clearly you show people what is and is not welcome in your life. People learn how to treat you through what you allow, what you repeat, and what you excuse. If you always bend, they will expect bending. If you never object, they will mistake silence for consent. If you keep abandoning yourself, they may begin to believe your needs do not matter, even if they never say it. That is why standards matter. That is why boundaries matter. That is why your truth matters. When you stop living as a performance and start living as a whole person, some relationships will change. Let them, the right ones will adjust. The weak ones may fall away, but what remains will be more honest than anything you built through pretending. Being liked is one of the most seductive goals in the world because it feels harmless. Who does not want to be liked, to be chosen, welcomed, approved of? But if being liked becomes your quiet obsession, you begin trading truth for acceptance without even noticing. You soften your words, filter your opinions, hide your sharp edges, make yourself easier to digest. And for a while, it seems to work. People call you sweet, easy, pleasant. But beneath that comfort, something begins to ache, because being liked is not the same as being known. It is not the same as being respected. It is not the same as being loved for who you really are. The woman who lives to be liked starts shaping every choice around reception. Will this upset them? Will this make me look bad? Will they still want me if I say what I really think? And in that constant adjustment, she slowly disappears from her own life. That is the tragedy. Trying to be everything for everyone and becoming no one to yourself. But life is not built on opinions that shift with mood and audience. You can be kind and still be disliked. You can be honest and still be judged. You can do everything right and still be misunderstood. So why build your worth on something so unstable? Why tie your peace to people who may not even be at peace with themselves? There is freedom in no longer needing universal approval. Not because you become hard, but because you become anchored. You stop speaking to impress. You start speaking to express. You stop performing connection. You start creating it through truth. Respect does not grow from endless pleasing. It grows from integrity, from consistency, from the quiet power of a person who knows what they stand for and does not fold every time pressure enters the room. That kind of presence is rare, and people feel it. They may not always like it at first, but they feel it. Because most people are used to masks, used to polished reactions, used to people saying what is safest instead of what is true. So when someone shows up real, clear, and unshaken, it changes the atmosphere. This is the deeper work. Not to become everyone's favorite, but to become someone you can trust when life gets hard. Someone who tells the truth. Someone who does not abandon herself when disapproval appears. Someone who can stand alone for a moment rather than betray her own spirit for quick acceptance. If no one claps, can you still stand by what is right for you? If someone misunderstands you, can you still remain clear? If they leave because you stop performing, can you still believe you made the right choice? That is where strength is formed. Not in applause, but in private alignment. Not in praise, but in self-respect. This part matters more than most people realize. Because once you stop needing to be liked, you stop making choices from weakness. Your energy becomes cleaner, your words become sharper, your relationships become more honest. Your life begins to feel like it actually belongs to you. And that is worth the discomfort it takes to get there. Every single time. Now let us go deeper, because change does not happen just by understanding these words. It happens when you begin to live them in ordinary moments. When the text comes in and you do not answer from guilt. When the invitation arrives and you say no without inventing a fake excuse. When someone crosses a line and you address it calmly instead of laughing it off. When you stop over-explaining a boundary just to make it easier for other people to accept. These are the small moments where a new self is built. Not in one giant speech, in repetition, in practice, in choosing yourself again and again until self-respect becomes natural. At first, it may feel strange. Your body may tense. Guilt may rise. Old fear may whisper that you are being unfair. Stay present. That discomfort is not always danger. Sometimes it is simply the feeling of no longer betraying yourself. Sometimes it is the nervous system learning a new truth. I can be honest and still be safe. I can disappoint someone and still be worthy. I can be clear and still be loving. That is powerful learning. And yes, there will be moments when you slip back into old patterns. Do not turn that into shame. Just notice it. Return. Recenter. Speak a little sooner next time. Pause a little longer before saying yes. Trust your body a little more when something feels off. This is how change grows. Quietly, strongly, honestly, not through perfection, but through practice. If this is hitting you right now, do not just listen. Let it move into your life. That is where the real shift begins. You are allowed to protect your energy without becoming a closed person. You are allowed to choose distance without hatred. You are allowed to be selective without guilt. Not every request deserves a yes. Not every relationship deserves unlimited access. Not every misunderstanding needs a long explanation. Some people will never understand your boundaries because they only knew the version of you that had none. That is not your burden to carry. Your job is not to be endlessly available. Your job is to be true, to be grounded, to keep your heart open without leaving your doors unlocked to everyone. There is wisdom in that. There is maturity in that. The strongest woman is not the one who can carry the most pain silently. It is the one who can feel deeply and still stay loyal to herself. The one who can love without dissolving. The one who can give without disappearing. The one who can walk away from what is misaligned even if part of her still wishes it could have worked. That is not weakness. That is inner order. That is self-respect in motion. And when you begin living from that place, your whole life starts to reorganize. Your time becomes cleaner. Your relationships become clearer. Your mind becomes quieter. Because it is no longer crowded with all the things you never said. There is peace in that. Real peace. Not the peace of pretending. The peace of alignment. The peace of knowing that even if the room misunderstands you, even if the crowd goes silent, even if someone chooses distance because you chose truth, you did not leave yourself behind. That peace is sacred. So if you have spent years being the easy one, the helpful one, the agreeable one, the one who keeps everything smooth while carrying storms inside, let this be the moment you stop glorifying that pain. Let this be the moment you see clearly that being nice at the cost of your truth was never your highest calling. You were not made to live as decoration in other people's lives. You were not made to be useful and invisible. You were not made to shrink, soften, edit, and perform until there was nothing real left to feel. You were made to live fully, to stand clearly, to love with depth, to speak with honesty, to say yes with your whole heart and no with peace in your chest. Not everyone will like this version of you. That is fine. Not everyone will understand your silence, your standards, your distance, your boundaries. That is fine too. You are not here to be perfectly received. You are here to be whole. And wholeness sometimes disappoints people who are comfortable with your self-abandonment. Let them be disappointed. Let them adjust. Let them leave if they must. Better an honest life with fewer false connections than a crowded life built on pretending. Read that again in your heart. Better an honest life with fewer false connections than a crowded life built on pretending. This is your reminder. You do not need to be everyone's favorite. You do not need to be endlessly understood. You do not need approval to stand in your truth. You only need the courage to stop abandoning yourself. And once you do, everything changes.